The pie charts show the results of a school's netball and football matches. The netball team played 30 games, the football team played 24 games. Estimate the percentage of games that the netball team lost. Well, if we look at the pie chart for the netball team, we can see that this section of the pie chart here shows how many they lost. Now remember, a percentage is a fraction with a denominator of 100. So if we draw a line across, we can see that the fraction of the games that they lost was more than 1/4. And 1/4 is 25%, because when we find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100, that's 25. And we can see that the amount lost is less than half, so less than 50%. 50% is the percentage that they won, but the pie chart shows lost. The slice of the pie is smaller for lost than it is for won. And 1/2 is 50%, because 1/2 is equivalent to 50 hundredths. Now I would say that the amount lost is closer to 1/4 than it is to 1/2. So I would estimate 35%, because that's 10% more than a quarter, but 15% less than a half. You get the mark for an estimate of between 30% and 36%. Draw the reflection of this shape. So we need to draw the reflection in the diagonal mirror line. But to make this question easier for us, what we can do is turn our page, and when we do that, we have a vertical mirror line instead, and this makes it much easier to draw the reflection. Remember, when we reflect a shape, we want the same on both sides. So what we can do is dot the corners. This point here is on the mirror line, so that will be on the mirror line in our reflected shape as well. To get to this point here, from the mirror line, we go across a half and then to the end of the next square. So in the other direction, we can go across a half and then to the end of the next square. For this point here, we go across a half, then one, then another one. So from the mirror line, we go across a half and then one and then another one. And finally, we have this point here where from the mirror line, we go across 1, 2 squares. So we go across 1, 2 squares in the other direction. And now that we've plotted our corners, we can just join them up and we've reflected the shape. Amir has 3 parcels. Parcels A and B together weigh the same as parcel C. So on the balancing scales, we can see A and B has the same weight as C. Now the 3 parcels weigh 800 grams altogether. Parcel A weighs 250 grams. How much does parcel B weigh? So because they weigh 800 together, if we divide by 2, that gives us 400. So we know that the total of A and B will be 400 and C will be 400, because the scales balance and the total weight is 800. So that means we need half the weight. We need 400 on both sides. But we want to know, how much does parcel B weigh? We know that A weighs 250. So we have 250 plus B equals 400. So what we can do is subtract 250 from 400, and that gives us 150 grams. So A, we're told, is 250, B, we've worked out, is 150, and C, we worked out, is 400. And if we add those 3 weights together, we can check that we get 800 grams. Look at this diagram. Calculate the size of angle X and angle Y. So we have a triangle, and here we can see that this angle is a right angle because we have a square in the corner. Now a right angle is 90 degrees, so we can write that next to the angle. We also to find angle X, need to remember that angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 90 plus 35 plus whatever X is will be 180 degrees altogether. So to find angle X, we can subtract the angles that we have. We have 90 and 35, so that's 125 altogether. And if we take that away from 180, we get 55 degrees, so that's the size of angle X, because 55 plus 35 plus 90 is 180, and the angles inside a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. But now we need to find angle Y. To answer this question, we need to spot that this is a straight line, and angles on a straight line also add up to 180 degrees. So we have 35 plus something has to equal 180. So if we subtract 35 from 180, that gives us 145 degrees for angle Y. Match each percentage to its correct decimal equivalent. So we need to remember that percentages are fractions with a denominator of 100, so hundredths, and with decimals, we need to remember that the hundredths digit is the second digit after the decimal point, because the first digit is the tenths digit. So 2% is the same as 0.02, because that way we have 2 in our hundredths, and 2% is 2 hundredths. Now 62% is 0.62. The second digit is the hundredths digit, but that means the 6 gets pushed over into the tenths, because if we have 6 tenths and 2 hundredths, that's the same as having 62 hundredths, so 62%. Now we have 60%. Now you might think we can match that to 0.06, but 0.06 shows 6% because that's just 6 hundredths. Now remember, we can write zeros on the end of decimals, so it makes sense that 60% is matched to 0.60. We have 6 tenths because 6 tenths is the same as 60 hundredths, so 60% matches to 0.6. Calculate the size of angle Y in this diagram. So here we can see that we have angles on a straight line. This angle here is 65. This angle here is a right angle, and we know that because it has a square in the corner, and a right angle is 90 degrees, so we can write 90 here. But we need to find angle Y. So we need to remember that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So 65 plus 90 plus whatever angle Y is has to total 180. So to find angle Y, we can subtract the angles that we have from 180. If we're subtracting 90 and 65, that's 155 altogether. So sometimes if you're subtracting and then subtracting again, it's easier just to add up what you're subtracting. And then 180 minus 155 is 25. So angle Y is 25 degrees because we have angles on a straight line, and 65 plus 90 plus 25 gives a total of 180. Write each of these numbers in its correct place on the sorting diagram. We need to write 40, 8 and 15, and we have circles for multiples of 5 and multiples of 2. So remember, a multiple of a number can be divided by that number without giving a remainder. So 25 is a multiple of 5 because it's in the 5 times table, or can be divided by 5 without giving a remainder. and 30 is in the section in the middle, so it's in the circle for multiples of 5 because it's in the 5 times table, and it's in the circle for multiples of 2 because it's in the 2 times table. And we know that because if we divide 30 by 2, we get 15, so we get a whole number. So 40 is a multiple of 5 because it's in the 5 times table, but 40 is also a multiple of 2 because we know that all even numbers, all numbers that end in 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8 are multiples of 2. So 40 goes in the section in the middle. If we divide it by 5, we'll get 8, and if we divide 40 by 2, we'll get 20, so we get whole numbers, which means that it's a multiple of both. It's a common multiple of 5 and 2. Now 8 is not a multiple of 5, it's not in the 5 times table, but it is a multiple of 2, so 8 goes in this section here. And now 15 is in the 5 times table, but it's not in the 2 times table, so 15 goes in this section here. These two shaded triangles are each inside a regular hexagon. Under each hexagon, tick the correct name of the shaded triangle. So we're told that it's a regular hexagon, and in a regular shape, all sides are the same length. So all the sides of this hexagon are the same. Now we need to decide whether each triangle is equilateral, isosceles or scaling. Now an equilateral triangle is basically a regular triangle. It has all 3 sides of the same length. With an isosceles triangle, we'll have 2 sides of the same length and the other side being a different length. And that's what we have here. Because this side and this side are the same length. We know that because it's the sides of a regular hexagon, but this is a different length. This length here is longer. Also, with isosceles triangles, as well as 2 sides being the same length, we also have 2 angles that are the same size. So this angle here and this angle here will be the same. The angle that's different will always be opposite the side that's different. But now let's look at this angle here. It's not an equilateral triangle because if it were an equilateral triangle, then sides would be the same length and angles would all be the same size. Remember, angles in an equilateral triangle are all 60 degrees. It's also not an isosceles triangle because we can't see 2 sides that are the same length. So it must be a scaling triangle. And with a scaling triangle, all sides are of a different length and all angles are of a different size. Write the 2 other prime numbers that multiply to make 165. Now a prime number is a number with 2 factors, 1 and itself. So 5 is a prime number because it's only in the 1 times table and the 5 times table, so its own times table. It doesn't have any other factors, it's not in any other times tables. But that doesn't really matter for this question. What we need to spot is that we've got a missing number multiplication, so we need to divide. We need to work out 165 divided by 5 because that will give us the product of these 2 numbers here. We can use short division and we get 33. So that tells us that this number times this number must be 33. And 11 times 3 is 33. So these missing numbers must be 11 and 3. And they're both prime numbers. 11 is only in the 1 and 11 times tables, and 3 is only in the 1 and 3 times tables. So they both have only 2 factors. So 5 times 11 times 3 equals 165. Circle all the numbers that are one more than a multiple of 4. Remember, a multiple of a number can be divided by that number without giving a remainder. So a multiple of 4 is a number in the 4 times table. But we want numbers that are 1 more than a multiple of 4. First we have 11. That's 1 more than 10, but 10 is not in the 4 times table. Now 17 is 1 more than 16, and 16 is a multiple of 4. 4 times 4 is 16, so it's in the 4 times table, and 17 is 1 more than that. Now 25 is 1 more than 24, and that's a multiple of 4 as well, because 6 times 4 is 24, so 25 is 1 more than a multiple of 4. 34 is 1 more than 33, but that's not in the 4 times table. 40 is 1 more than 39, but 39 is not a multiple of 4. And 49 is 1 more than 48, and 48 is a multiple of 4 because 12 times 4 is 48, and then 49 is 1 more. So we need 17, 25 and 49 to be circled.